Rain softened the skyline into smudged graphite, a wet hush pressed over Manhattan like a thick wool blanket. Patio heaters hummed, giving the rooftop a copper glow against the stubborn wind. The city breathed below, impatient, tireless, forever reaching. Maya moved through the maze of low firebowls and mirrored planters, her tray riding the air like a steady moon. She knew the floor's slick seams by muscle memory, the spots where a heel could slip, the angles where a smile worked better than an apology. The host stand was a lighthouse of laminated menus and reservation tablets, pulsing with names she couldn't afford to pronounce wrong. She kept count of tips in the back of her head, the way some people counted prayers. At table 12, she reset a crooked knife with the side of her palm, smoothed a linen fold that refused to behave, and breathed the way her mother taught her. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. The glassware sang softly when she shifted the weight. She checked the bar clock. She'd promised herself she would not think about the rent until close. Her body believed the promise. Her mind did not. A man in a black raincoat stepped from the elevator, shaking off the drizzle. Tall, tailored, a look that said schedules bowed to him or got crushed. He offered a tight nod to the host, then glanced past the room like he was measuring it. When the host pointed, his hand lifted in a thank you, and a flash caught Maya's eye. A ring! Platinum, clean lines, a high-set diamond floating like captured frost. It shone a shade too bright for the room, a theatrical brightness that wanted to be watched. She had seen that design before, in a magazine her mother hoarded in. The kitchen drawer, the Hale family crest, subtle as a whisper along the shoulders, a pattern of waves and wheat. In the picture, the diamond had been sea-pale, patient light. This one threw sparks like a match. Maya slid to the bar and set down her tray. "Gabe, you see that?" she asked, nodding toward the newcomer. Gabe, sleeves rolled, eyes kind, glanced over while pulling a beer. "Rich guy in a storm? Welcome to Tuesday." "The ring," she said. "It's loud," Gabe smirked. "Loud buys dessert." The man removed the raincoat, revealing a slate suit and the kind of posture that never apologized. When he turned, Maya saw his face from a dozen real estate covers. Ethan Hale, the Prince of Glass Towers and Rooftop Terraces, the kind of name that made doormen stand straighter and lawyers lower their voices. He checked his watch, then flexed his left hand and rotated the ring like it was still new to his skin. Maya's manager, Tessa, materialized at her elbow. "Table 12 is his," Tessa whispered. "VIP. Keep it quiet, keep it perfect." "I always do," Maya said, keeping her voice even. "Extra perfect," Tessa said, then walked away, leaving a ghost of eucalyptus perfume and a reminder of consequences. Maya delivered water, her steps unhurried. "Welcome to Vesper," she said, the greeting shaped by repetition yet still intact. "Still or sparkling?" "Sparkling," Ethan said. His voice was steady, faintly hoarse, like he'd been arguing with the weather. "And a bourbon." "Neat. Any preference?" she asked. "Something that forgives," he said, half a smile. She nodded. "We have an 18-year that's very kind." He watched her for a beat. "Kind is good." As she turned, the ring winked again. Up, close, the diamond refracted a narrow fringe of green, bright as a traffic light through fog. She'd seen labstones do that under LEDs in a discount boutique on Canal, the color sliding where natural ice stayed calm. Old habit, old curiosity. She logged it and kept moving. Back at the bar, she poured the bourbon, a slow amber ribbon, into a heavy crystal. Gabe leaned in. "So? It flares," Maya murmured. "Like it wants applause." Gabe chuckled. "Maybe it's just happy for him." Rings don't get happy, she said, setting the glass on a coaster. People tell them what to mean. When she returned, Ethan was scrolling through a screen full of calendars. She placed the bourbon, quiet enough to respect his bubble. He glanced up. "Thank you," he said. His gaze slipped to her name tag. "Maya?" "Any time," she answered. Then, before she could stop herself, "Congratulations." His expression twitched. "On what?" "The ring," she said, feeling the line she was crossing as she stepped over it. "It's beautiful." He looked at his hand like it belonged to someone else. "Right," he said, softer. "Thank you." Silence opened. The heaters hummed. Rain ticked the glass. She resisted the urge to fill the quiet. "It's new," he added, as if that might explain the way it sat on his finger. "Still getting used to it. New things can be heavy," she said, surprising herself. He studied her for a second, then nodded once, decisive, like he'd filed something away. "They can." A laugh burst near the entrance. Another elevator ding. A woman stepped out, in a white coat and a camera-ready smile, shaking droplets from her blowout. She moved with practiced brightness, carrying a tiny clutch and the nerve of someone who knew she'd be photographed. When the host gestured toward table 12, her smile widened, then smoothed into something gentler, a performance docking in place. Maya watched Ethan stand. The ring flashed again, a stage light in miniature. The woman reached him and pressed a kiss to his cheek, carefully left, careful not to smear anything. "Hi, stranger," she said. The voice rang trained, like a line that had been rehearsed, until it sounded spontaneous. "Cass," Ethan replied. Relief didn't touch his posture. Maya felt the pattern of the night rethread around that simple exchange. Somewhere beneath the heaters, beneath the rain, beneath the practiced smiles, a seam tugged. The city breathed, impatient, tireless, forever reaching. Maya steadied the water pitcher, set 2 fresh flutes on her tray, and walked toward them, the ring's green spark ghosting her steps. Wind pressed against the glass and worried the awnings like a dog with a toy, persistent and a little mean. The rain turned the skyline into a smear of chrome, while heaters stitched warmth into the cold corners. The rooftop felt suspended between storm and city, a lantern above a restless sea. Maya watched the couple with the careful distance of someone who served for a living and still guarded her heart. Ethan Hale sat at a corner table that photographed well. Backdrop of Empire State, a halo of bokeh lights, enough shadow to make a jawline look decisive. Cass occupied the chair like she'd practiced in a mirror, shoulders angled, wrist relaxed on the table, smile calibrated to look effortless. Maya noted the tiny cues that told the truth. He angled outward toward the room. She angled inward toward the lens only she could see. The ring sat on his finger like a headline printed in a font he didn't choose. She eased the cork with a soft sigh, caught the breath of foam, then poured in 2 neat arcs. The flutes took the champagne gently, no fuss, no splash. "Brute from Sonoma," she said. "Bright finish, cuts through a rainy night." "Perfect," Cass said, voice warm enough for microphones. She lifted her glass and leaned a fraction closer to Ethan. "To us." He touched the rim of his glass to hers. "To getting through this week." His tone stayed even, surrounded by humor that didn't fully arrive. Maya set a small dish of olives and almonds, then stepped back without stepping away. She caught the glow of the heater tipping across the diamond. There it was again, that quick green whisper. The crest engraving along the shoulders looked razor clean, edges still sharp enough to catch a thread. The ring was a message that kept repeating itself, and the message was off by half a beat. When Ethan adjusted his cuff, the band rotated the slightest degree, like metal that hadn't warmed to skin. The family piece she'd seen in the magazine, had a presence that settled, a kind of quiet gravity. This one glittered like it wanted applause. Cass tilted her chin toward Maya. Could we get oysters to start? And maybe the truffle fries? I know, absolutely opposite ends of the ocean, but I'm starving. Easy fix, Maya said, already marking the ticket in her head. Half dozen and fries, truffle on the side. Ethan looked up, finally setting his attention on Maya rather than the horizon of obligations living behind her. Thank you, he said. His gaze dipped to her name tag again, as if names were anchors in a night of moving parts. Maya, is it? It is, she said, keeping her voice calm. Let me know if you need anything else. Cass twined a fingertip along the flute stem. We'll need the check quick later, she said, with a smile that apologized while promising nothing. Long day tomorrow. Got it. Maya moved away, the storm sliding over the glass like restless fingers. At the service station, she scribbled the order for Gabe, who lifted a brow without pausing his pan. Ring guy still ringing? He asked. It keeps shouting, she said. Only quieter, Gabe smirked. Maybe it's the wrong size for his finger. Or the wrong story for his life. She returned with a fresh napkin for the condensation halo. Ethan's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Cass's buzzed. She skimmed the screen and set it face down with a small, practiced frown. They changed the step and repeat, she told Ethan. New sponsor. We adapt, he said. The words sounded like policy. Maya placed the oysters on crushed ice. Lemon sails pointed toward the city. The truffle fries arrived in a small tower, steam curling into the heater's glow. She set down 2 plates, the neat choreography of equal care. Anything else I can grab for you? Cass brightened. Do you have hot sauce? House fermented, Maya said. Gives the oysters a little backbone. Love that, Cass said. Then, almost to herself, backbone never hurt anybody. Ethan brushed a thumb along the water glass, then glanced again at the ring. It's fine, he said. So quietly, Maya wasn't sure who he meant to convince. Fine looks good in photos, Cass replied, lifting an oyster like a shot of bravery. Swallow, smile, Ethan laughed, short and genuine, the sound of a man who missed laughing. You always know the stage directions. They keep me from tripping, she said. Maya cleared a spent napkin and felt the small tug of sympathy she hated, that warmth for strangers who were not her problem. The ring caught her eye one more time. The stone's fire burned bright, but the color kept slipping, a flash of sea glass green when true ice usually held steady under this light. Her mother had taught her the difference at a pawn shop counter, a lifetime ago when bargains whispered louder than caution. She thought of that dog-eared magazine at home, the crest ring sitting inside a story about a family that talked about legacy more than love. In print, the Hale diamond had looked like winter sunlight, calm, enduring. On Ethan's hand, it looked like a stage light, hot, hurried, hungry. Cass reached across the table, her fingertips grazing Ethan's wrist. He didn't pull back, but he didn't lean either. We'll be all right, she said. We just need to get through the announcement. We will, he replied. He rotated the ring again, a fast adjustment he probably didn't know he made. Then we'll see. Maya topped off their water and felt the air shift, a draft curling under the heaters as if the night wanted to listen closer. Somewhere beyond the glass, a siren wound down to nothing. At table 8, laughter hit a high note and fell away. The rooftop waited. Maya set the check presenter at the ready, then looked once more at the ring, the floor bright as a whisper. Rain slowed to a fine mist, a veil more than a storm, and the city brightened beneath it, tail lights smeared to ribbon, windows returning to their mirror selves. The rooftop steadied, less wind, more hush, as if the night had shifted from argument to negotiation. Maya sensed the room aligning itself around table 12. Phones appeared and vanished at other tables, glances slid and pretended not to. In the reflection of the patio doors, she watched a small entourage arrive from the elevator. a woman in a tailored navy dress moving with PR cadence, a stylist with a soft case of brushes, and a man shouldering a camera that looked allergic to subtlety. Their approach curved toward Ethan and Cass like a tide finding shore. Maya refreshed water, gathered spare napkins, and anchored her tray on her palm, posture easy, face open. She stepped into range just as the PR woman offered a handshake built for photographs. "Vivian Cross," the woman said, voice velvet with direction. "So sorry about the delay. Lighting's better now. We'll keep it quick." She glanced at Maya for a half-second, defining, measuring, then back to her subjects. "Ethan, left shoulder to the city." Cass, chin a touch higher. "We're keeping this clean and warm." Cass's smile brightened by 2 degrees. "Warm is our specialty." Ethan adjusted as told, jaw relaxed, eyes doing the work of someone who practiced, appearing genuine, on purpose. He brushed his cuff, and the ring turned again, that tiny betrayals of fit. The diamond flared a thin seam of green when the camera light popped. Under the lens it looked louder, like a spotlight that didn't understand the scene. The crest engraving seemed almost theatrical. Perfect edges, no softened history, no fingerprints of time. Maya remembered the magazine image in her mother's kitchen, the way that stone had seemed to glow from within, patient light. This one threw light outward like it wanted to drown the room. Vivian's tone stayed gentle but carried steel. "Just a few candids." Laugh like someone told a private joke. Cass brushes lapel. "Ethan, meet her eyes, then the city." "We'll grab a ring detail and be done." Maya felt the request like a pinprick. "A ring detail?" She hovered with the tray as the camera operator leaned close, lens hungry, the ring filling his world. Vivian flicked a glance at Maya. "Can we swap these napkins for a cleaner fold?" "On it," Maya said, trading cloth with quick hands and a smile that never bumped a boundary. The camera clicked in small bursts. Cass played the part flawlessly, hand to Ethan's shoulder, breathy laugh, a glance that rested soft and convincing. The warmth was accurate by temperature. Maya couldn't argue with the technique. The truth lived elsewhere. Vivian turned to Maya. "Can we get a champagne top-off for a pour shot?" "Absolutely," Maya said. She eased in, refilled both flutes with steady motion. Champagne climbed in a bright thread, bead by bead. The ring sat close to the stream, catching the heater's LED. There, again. The color slid, a ghost of traffic light green. Vivian checked the camera's preview, eyes narrowing for a flick, then smoothing. "Lovely. One more with hands." Cass laid her right hand lightly over Ethan's left, fingertips grazing the band. "Feels surreal," she said, voice low enough to imply intimacy, but clear enough to record if someone needed it. "Good surreal," Ethan replied, and if there was air behind the words, the camera didn't catch it. Maya stepped back to reset her tray. At the service station, Gabe lifted his chin toward the entourage. "They multiplying." "PR bloom," Maya said. "Comes out after rain," he grinned. "You okay?" "I'm fine." She watched the trio at table 12 in the chrome reflection of the beer tap. "They're building something. I'm just making sure the table doesn't wobble." Vivian rapped in minutes, efficient as a metronome. "We'll push selects to the wire at 9, she told Ethan, then to Cass. "You're a dream." She turned toward Maya. "You've been wonderful." "What's your name?" "Maya, thank you." "Maya." "We'll settle the check now. Ethan has an early call." "Whenever you're ready," Maya said. Vivian slid a sleek corporate card into the presenter without looking at the total. "Also, do us a favor, sweetheart. No reposting tonight's images if you happen to catch any." "Brand needs to speak first." Maya held her gaze, professional calm over an old, stubborn heat. "We don't post guests." "Perfect." Vivian's smile warmed by design. "The world is messy enough." Cass rose to use the restroom, a quick adjustment of the white coat as she passed. The stylist shadowed her with a compact and a powder brush like a bodyguard of light. Ethan remained, shoulders lowered as if the armor had been shelved for a breath. Maya approached with the receipt.
All set, she said. Do you want a copy? Email's fine, Vivian answered, already moving. Ethan?
I'm good, he said. Vivian drifted toward the elevator to make a call, voice soft, words hard. Ethan rubbed the bridge of his nose. Maya could have walked away, and maybe should have. Instead, she placed a fresh napkin near his hand. You handled that well, she said. He huffed a laugh that barely counted. It's a skill set. Looks exhausting, she said. It is. He turned the ring again, reflexive, then stilled.
But it's important. For who?
The question left before she could cage it. He met her eyes, then looked past her to the city, to the glass towers he'd hammered into the sky. People who work for those lights staying on, he said. Maya nodded once. The line was polished, but the fatigue wasn't. Then I hope it works. So do I, he said. And this time it sounded like truth. Cass returned, smile clicked on, shoulders warmed to their mark. Vivian rejoined with a thumbs up. The scene reset for exit. As they left, the ring flashed one last time, throwing that thin green seam across Maya's palm, a bright, wrong note that lingered after the music paused. Mist feathered across the glass like breath on a mirror. Midtown throbbed in red and white veins below, taxis blinking, umbrellas tilting, a city pretending it wasn't drenched. The rooftop heaters hummed steady, the sound of a plane that would never land. Maya closed out 3 checks, reset a 2-top, and tried to let table 12 slide out of her attention like rain off a well-waxed hood. It didn't. The afterimage of that ring kept pulsing in the corner of her mind, a green seam stitched into bright white light. She wiped a water ring from marble and reminded herself that curiosity didn't pay rent unless it came with a tip line. At the service station, she stacked rocks glasses 222, then eased a stubborn drawer shut with her hip. When she reached for new linens, a shadow fell across the shelf. Maya, right? Vivian Cross's voice was kind the way a locked door was sturdy. You were a lifesaver back there. Happy to help, Maya said. She tucked a cloth under her arm and kept her hands visible, neutral, the way she'd learned with people who came wrapped in money and time pressure. Vivian leaned a shoulder to the wall like they were co-conspirators hiding from the rain. Up close, her perfume ran cool, cedar and good decisions.
Listen, I want to flag something.
There'll be coverage rolling out. The announcement matters. We need the room around it to stay boring. Maya's mouth shaped a polite smile. We keep it quiet up here. I figured, Vivian said, eyes quick, assessing. You look like the sort who notices details and keeps them to yourself. Maya thought of the ring flashing green as it crossed under the heater's LED. She pictured the crest's lines, waves and wheat, too sharp for their own history. We notice spills first, she said.
Then details, Vivian's smile sharpened.
Good hierarchy. She lowered her voice. Here's the thing. Some partners need reassurance.
Old money with old rules.
A certain narrative helps steady hands. You'll see headlines, engagement, stability. It's important the story lands clean. Maya felt the word story scratch a long bone. Sounds like a big week? It is. Vivian's glance flicked toward the elevator, then back. We're threading a needle and the wind keeps shifting. The difference between a win and a mess is usually who keeps their mouth shut at the right moment. Then I'll keep mine shut, Maya said, even as her pulse wrote questions on the inside of her skin. Vivian nodded, satisfied, then softened her tone a fraction. You're good at this. The calm, the invisibility. People underestimate how hard that is. She slipped a business card from a thin case and placed it by the towels. If anyone calls asking what you saw hospitality.
If something
odd floats across your feed, ping me before you react. Why would something odd float across my feed? Maya asked, even as she knew the answer was, because odd had a way of seeking the nearest witness. Vivian's gaze held hers, cordial, unblinking, because people who don't have a stake love to set fires for warmth. She tapped the card once with a manicured nail. We like to keep the alarm sensible. A chime from the elevator cut the moment. The entourage returned, smaller now, edges looser. Cass had changed gloss. Ethan had put his raincoat back on but left the collar open, like a man pretending he wasn't cold. Gabe called for a runner. Tessa asked for table numbers. The room swelled back into motion. Maya slid the card into her apron, heart steady by instruction, not by truth. She brought Ethan and Cass the umbrellas the hotel kept for people who hated weather. "Storm's easing," she said. "Side street has better cover." "Appreciated," Ethan said, voice sanded from a long day. He glanced at the ring again. The band answered by not answering. Cass smiled, one hand on his arm, the picture learning itself. Vivian looked pleased with the frame of them. "Tomorrow's going to be smooth," she said, like a blessing that also contained a threat. "Thank you, Maya. You've been an ally." Maya swallowed the word and offered a nod.
"Have a dry walk." They stepped toward the elevator together, a tableau of decision-makers in motion.
The doors slid open, and for a heartbeat the stainless steel held their reflection. Cass beaming, Vivian poised, Ethan thoughtful, the ring a hard star on a moving hand. As the doors met, the diamond flared that thin green again, there and gone, like a traffic signal telling a lie. Maya stared at the faint smear it left on her thoughts, a light that didn't belong to weather or luck. Tessa appeared with a ledger and a crisis about seating. Maya solved it in 30 seconds, then retied a wobbly high top with a folded napkin shim. She reset, refilled, remembered to drink water, remembered not to check her phone for the millionth time for a text from a mother who had learned silence was cheaper than worry. The card in her pocket warmed against her thigh, small and heavy as an answer she hadn't asked for. She looked out over the slick city and decided two things at once. She hated lies dressed as love, and she was going to keep watching that ring. The storm thinned to a mist that beaded on glass and eyelashes, a fine grit of weather that made the city look freshly invented. Traffic softened. The rooftops' hum settled into a low, steady purr, like the building had decided to breathe with Maya instead of against her. Last call drifted closer. Couples negotiated umbrellas and ride shares. A birthday table sang off-key and tipped high. Maya moved through the glow with a pace that saved ankles and arguments. She logged exits, small messes, the rhythm of a room exhaling. The elevator opened again and Cass slipped out alone from the hallway that led to the restrooms, coat folded over her arm, brightness dialed down to human.
"Bathroom line is a saga," Cass said, half a laugh. "Can I get a club soda?" "No lime." "On it," Maya answered.
She poured and placed the glass on a cocktail napkin-shaped square as a promise. Cass reached for it, then hesitated, glancing toward the restroom corridor. "Do you have—"
"Hand soap that doesn't smell like a meadow."
"I think I walked through a diffuser." "Service wash is closer," Maya said, pointing to the side door by the prep station.
"No candles."
"Just indignity," Cass smiled, grateful, and followed Maya to the narrow sink where servers rescued sleeves and sanity. She set her clutch on the steel ledge, then tugged the ring free with a neat twist. "I don't like getting lotion under it," she said, almost apologizing. Maya kept her gaze where it lived, on the faucet, on the towel, on not making trouble. But the ring landed in a saucer beside the soap pump, and light had nowhere else to go. The diamond pitched a quick, green-tinted wink beneath the harsh LED, then calmed. Cass lathered her hands, humming something light. Maya glanced once, and once was enough. The crest on the shoulders was too clean, edges razor-sharp, grooves unbruised by time. Along the girdle, at the south by southeast facet, a hair-thin mark caught and released the light. Not a crack. A tiny, straight line like a surgeon's signature. Laser inscription lived there, in the wholesale stone she'd seen years ago, when a pawn shop owner had paid her mother to sort scrap jewelry and let a curious teenager stare. "Nice setup back here," Cass said, rinsing.
"You could do surgery." "Only the emotional kind," Maya said, handing over a towel.
She tucked her curiosity under a professional smile.
"Big day tomorrow?"
Cass dried carefully, then reached for the ring. Bigger than most. She slid it back on. It resisted for a beat, then agreed. Media loves a happy headline.
It's like feeding pigeons.
The more you give, the more they expect. I don't feed pigeons, Maya said lightly. They unionize, Cass laughed, this time unperformed. A sound with edges. For a second, the mask loosened. You seem sane.
Don't change. Footsteps clipped toward them.
Vivian appeared in the doorway, phone at her ear, expression that said the news wasn't disaster, just expensive. She ended the call and clocked the room in a blink. The sink, the ring back on, the server standing neat as a pin. There you are, she told Cass. Car's downstairs. Saved by the service sink, Cass replied. Maya's a magician. Vivian's eyes warmed a degree toward Maya. We're lucky tonight. Then to Cass. Let's move. Riker's assistant wants a dawn briefing. They left in a rustle of fabric and intention. The door side shut. The room's plain light returned, and with it, the image that wouldn't leave. A laser-fine mark where old stones almost never told their stories. Maya rinsed an empty shaker tin she didn't need to rinse and felt the familiar tug. The part of her that believed in honest metal, in things that aged and still held. She stepped back onto the floor. The birthday table cheered a final time and scattered like birds. Gabe slid a ramekin of salt toward her and lifted his chin at the corridor.
Everything cool?
Cool enough, Maya said. She tapped a fingertip to the tin, the click grounding.
She took the ring off to wash. I saw a laser inscription. Gabe whistled softly.
Lab-grown? Or at least not heirloom, Maya said. The words sat heavy and right.
And the crest edges haven't lived a day. Gabe leaned on his station, voice low. You gonna do something with that brain of yours, Nancy Drew?
I'm going to make sure Table 12 gets a clean check. And then I'm going to stop thinking about rich strangers, she said, lying by habit. As she walked another round, the ring kept replaying itself. The green flare, the sharp crest, the surgical line, like frames of a film looped too tight. In the reflection on the patio door, she caught her own face, older than the day before in the way knowledge adds years. She thought of the dog-eared magazine in her mother's drawer, of the caption about legacy and love. The picture had never mentioned lasers. Tessa called for a hand sweep. Maya bussed 3 tables fast, then restocked flutes. The elevator dinged again, revealing nothing more dramatic than a couple arguing over dessert. It didn't matter. The scratch had moved the story from maybe to almost.
Almost demanded proof. She dried her hands, slid her phone deeper in her apron, and counted back the bills at the host's stand. Calm first.
Then detail. The sink reflected nothing now. The floor breathed. The night pretended to sleep. Maya looked toward the prep door where the saucer had caught the ring, and a decision clicked into place almost as soft as a heartbeat. Steam lifted from the dish pit in ghostly ribbons, hauling the smell of lemon and hot metal into the narrow prep corridor. The rooftop had quieted to a low murmur. Rain ticked like fingernails along the skylight vents. In the bright back-of-house light, everything looked honest and a little unforgiving. Maya stationed herself at the service sink with a stack of folded bar towels and a calm she stitched on like an apron. Through the swinging door, she could see the dining room return to pretty. Tables wiped, candles pinched, the city beyond pretending to be gentle. She felt the tug of the decision she'd made, proof over rumor, image over intuition. She needed a photo. She needed it clean. Gabe slid beside her with a squeeze bottle of aioli and a grin built for trouble. You're really doing this?
I'm doing this once, she said. 10 seconds, maybe 8. Then I'll buy you 8. He jerked his chin toward the hallway.
They're back. Cass slipped in first, stylist on her heels, clutch under her arm, smile dialed down to maintenance mode. Vivian followed, voice lower now, shape of a crisis shrinking instead of swelling. 2 minutes, she told the stylist. Cars at the curb. Cass glanced at Maya with quick recognition and the kind of gratitude that made people generous with truths. Sorry again, she said, already turning the faucet. Soap here doesn't smell like a meadow. Still just indignity, Maya answered. She set a saucer by the pump like it had always lived there. Cass twisted the ring free. The diamond caught the LED and flared that thin green seam, then went quiet. The crest, waves chased by wheat, looked sharp enough to cut silk. She placed the band in the saucer like a coin buying time. Gabe bumped past the stylist with a tray of ramekins and a conspirator's apology.
Hotline sent these out wrong. Mind if I torch the crumbs?
Won't stink, just smoke. Without waiting for permission, he clicked a butane flame to life and coaxed a whisper of showy smoke from a stray sprig of thyme. The stylist's attention swung like a compass needle. Vivian stepped back a half-inch, expression disapproving, nostrils curious. Maya moved like she was rearranging towels. Phone already in her palm, camera already open, flash off, sound off, brain quiet. She angled her body to shade the saucer, bent as if to wipe the ledge, and set the lens close. The first shot caught the band proud and bright. Not enough. She exhaled, then, in one smooth motion, she tilted the saucer 2 degrees to invite the light across the stone's girdle. There, a hair-thin line revealed itself, straight as a razor, the laser inscription perched at the edge like a secret. She thumbed the focus, macro crawling, held for the green flare as the LED kissed a facet. The crest edges crisped into view, unsoftened by time. Click, click, 2 frames. 3 for mercy. Vivian's voice slid closer. Everything all right? Maya set the saucer flat, wiped the ledge for real, and reached for the paper towel dispenser with server-neutral efficiency. All good. Just tidying. Cass rinsed and shook her hands once, the discreet flick of someone trained not to spray a dress. You're a saint, she said, and reached for the ring. Maya's pulse counted out beats against her ribs. She watched the band slide home with brief resistance, then accept its assignment. The diamond gave one more theatrical wink, a green note threading white light. Gabe killed the flame and fanned the smoke with a tray.
Crisis averted, he said cheerfully.
The stylist coughed a laugh. Vivian gave him a look that said not helpful and thank you in the same breath. Let's move, Vivian told Cass. Riker waits for no one. Not even for perfect hair, the stylist said, herding them toward the door. They filed out, heels clacking, voices carrying the shape of schedules rather than words. The door swung, then settled. The prep corridor breathed like a held note released. Maya lifted her phone with careful hands. On the screen, the photos sat like small verdicts. In the best frame, the laser inscription tracked the girdle like a surgeon's signature. Proof. The crest's edges looked machine new, and across the diamond's fire ran that thin, unmistakable green seam, a traffic light whispering wrong. Her mother's dog-eared magazine had never glowed like that. Got it? Gabe asked quietly. Got it. Relief spread through her shoulders like warmth finding a cold room.
Thanks for the smoke show, he shrugged.
I like theater. You like truth. Consider it a co-pro. She tucked the phone into her apron, screen down, heart lighter and heavier at once. Proof felt good. Proof had gravity.
Proof asked for the next right thing. Tessa's voice popped from the dining room.
Maya, can you close out 7 and sweep the banquette?
On it, Maya called back.
She snapped the paper towel dispenser with a neat rip, wiped the stainless ledge into a cleaner version of itself, and pocketed the moment the way you pocketed a coin for luck. At the sink, a stray droplet clung to the saucer's rim. She flicked it into the drain and watched the water take it without ceremony. Somewhere below the vents, a siren rose, curved and flattened to silence. Above, the rain paused like a thought it might finish later. Maya pressed the phone to her hip, steadied her breath, and stepped toward the room carrying Proof. Night pressed closer, a velvet weight against the glass. The rain gave up and left a damp glitter behind, so the city looked freshly washed and faintly unreal. The rooftop hummed at a lower pitch like the building had switched to nighttime lungs. Far off, a helicopter stitched a dotted line across the dark. Maya closed out 2 tabs, restacked dessert plates, and let her breath settle into a pace that made decisions calmer. The service corridor glowed with uncompromising light, all stainless and corners, a truth room disguised as a hallway. Her phone warmed her hip with its small new gravity. In the reflection of a steel shelf, she saw herself reduced to essentials: ponytail, calm eyes, the kind of backbone you build from tips and late rent.
Got a sec?
Vivian's voice arrived before her perfume, smooth and professional, 2 parts charm, 1 part solvent. She stepped into the corridor like it belonged to her.
No entourage now.
Just a woman who knew how to close loops. I wanted to thank you again for tonight. You saved me time. Happy to help, Maya said, hands occupied with folding bar towels. She didn't strictly need to fold again. Keep them visible, keep them steady, make no sudden moves around sharks or executives. Vivian leaned against the shelf with careful ease. You know how nights like this go.
A lot of moving pieces.
A lot of eyes that don't always know what they're seeing. You handled it beautifully. Doing my job, Maya said, and doing it well. Vivian's smile flicked, then cooled, which is why I'm going to treat you like a professional and not a liability. I'm going to say the quiet part carefully. Maya let the towels rest, spine long, chin level. Okay. Vivian's gaze dipped just once to Maya's apron, where a phone lay like a sealed envelope, and then lifted. There's a ring on a very famous finger, she said, gentle and pointed. It means stability to certain people who need stories more than they need proof. In the morning, the story rolls out.
I need the background to stay background. The word ring landed with perfect accuracy.
A thin seam of green flashed again in Maya's memory, sliding across ice that didn't belong to old money. We don't post guests, she said. I know. Vivian nodded as if granting a gold star. But the internet isn't a single action.
It's a chain of impulses.
You take a photo. You vent to a friend. A friend screenshots. A blogger thinks they're Woodward. By sunrise, we're bleeding. I'm not a blogger, Maya said, keeping her voice mild. You're a witness, Vivian replied, not unkind. She produced a slender folder from her bag, crisp and blue. Which makes you valuable.
And risky.
Here's the boring part. The folder opened to a 1-page NDA, all confident fonts and subtle teeth. A routine confidentiality agreement for VIP floors. You've probably signed one before, Maya had.
Not this one.
The clauses read like tripwires. The penalties read like cliffs. She felt the old, stubborn heat move through her, slow and disciplined.
You're asking me not to talk about what I saw. I'm asking you to do what you already do, Vivian said.
Keep hospitality clean.
Keep noise out.
In return, a thank you. She slid a second envelope forward, thinner, heavier, and a direct contact. If you see something that looks like it could become a problem, you call me, not the void. Maya didn't touch the pen. What happens if someone else posts? A busser, a line cook,
a guest across the room with a better angle. Then I still fix it, Vivian said.
But I sleep easier knowing the person who noticed most isn't adding fuel. I'm aware you're careful. I'm also aware you're smart. Smart people get curious. Curiosity breaks things. Sometimes it fixes them, Maya said, pulse steady now. Vivian held her gaze. Not tonight. The memory of the laser inscription hovered at the edge of Maya's sight. A hairline truth etched into a stone that pretended to be older than it was. The crest's sharp edges, the wrong green, the story and the proof wrestling in a metal circle smaller than a quarter. Vivian softened by a measured degree.
Look, I actually like you, she said. You're composed.
You don't perform your kindness, you just do it.
Sign this. And if anyone tries to lean on you, you tell them to call me. I'll be the wall.
Meanwhile, she tapped the cash-weighted envelope. I respect labor. Consider it gratitude for excellent service. Maya let the seconds pass. The sound of a rack clattering in the dish pit. The soft slap of a mop somewhere further down. Her mother's voice in her head, a lesson from another life. Don't let rich people rent your silence. If they want quiet, make them pay with truth. I can't sign it, Maya said. Vivian didn't flinch. Because? Because it says, I can't even tell my manager what happened if there's a problem. Because it says if someone lies using my name, I can't defend myself without your permission.
Because it's not about privacy. It's about leverage. Vivian's jaw set for the first time.
That's a generous reading. It's a correct one. They measured each other across the shiny, ordinary sink. The rooftop hummed. The city breathed. A tired server laughed 2 rooms away. All right, Vivian said finally, voice cool again, no signature. Then hear me plain. You'll keep doing your job. You won't share images. You won't speculate. You won't play detective on social. If you do, the people who pay me will make your week very long. My week's already long, Maya said. But I heard you. Vivian slid the blue folder back into her bag, leaving the tip envelope untouched. Keep the thank you. You earned it. Maya glanced at it, then pushed it gently across the steel until it nudged Vivian's wrist. I earn my money by the hour. Vivian studied her, recalculating. Something like respect clicked into place, reluctant and real.
If the world had more of you, my job would be harder, she said.
Which I would hate,
added Maya. She straightened, mask resealed.
Good night, Maya. Good night, Maya said. When Vivian's heels faded, Maya stood very still, hand on the cool edge of the sink, and felt the weight of a choice settle in her bones like a ring that finally fit. Floodlights combed the hotel ballroom into daylight at midnight, a glittering aquarium where donors, rivals, and gossips swam in sequins. Strings warmed the air like an expensive apology, while drones purred above the step and repeat, blinking red eyes. Outside, the city ran on caffeine and rumor. Inside, everything smelled like white flowers and ambition. Maya wore a black jacket that made her look like part of the furniture and kept her tray high, steady as a moon. The dais sliced the room on a shallow rise, logo wall behind, glass podium center, a floral arch that tried to soften concrete money. Tessa placed Maya on the left aisle, close enough to refill flutes, far enough to pretend privacy. She logged exits, she counted security. She measured where truth could slip through seams. Vivian hovered at stage right with a headset and the calm of a bomb tech. Cass shimmered in a silk column that moved like water. Ethan stood beside her, tailored and contained, a study in chosen ease. When the MC announced them, applause rose like a warm tide. Cass leaned into Ethan's shoulder on cue. Ethan met the room with a smile that hit all the targets. The ring flashed as he lifted his hand in thanks. There it was, the thin green seam, a whisper of wrong threading pure light. Under the truss LEDs, the diamond threw color it shouldn't own, a traffic signal flickering inside winter glass. The crest at the shoulders looked sharp as a stencil, still unbruised by time, no softened edges of inheritance. Maya felt the image click into the album in her mind, the magazine photo in her mother's drawer, arguing with the stone on stage. Legacy versus lighting design. Maya slipped between tables, collecting empties, placing full flutes with a dancer's economy. Phones rose like periscopes, murmurs knitted into a soft electric blanket. On stage, the MC steered toward the money. Stability, trust, future. Words that sounded like contracts in tuxedos. Vivian gave a hand signal. A spotlight narrowed. The podium caught Ethan in a clean frame. Thank you, he said, voice amplified into velvet. This city taught me that buildings are only as strong as the people who believe in them. Tonight is about belief, he turned to Cass. Applause rewarded the pivot. And about family, Maya felt something resist, a hairline pressure behind the polish. Cass's hand found Ethan's, gentle, deliberate. A photographer edged closer for the ring shot. The light hit the stone square. The flare slid green again, quick as a lizard, and Maya watched 3 people register it without moving. Vivian, whose pupils narrowed. The photographer, whose camera stuttered. And Ethan, who adjusted the band a millimeter like a man fidgeting a story. The crest winked, crisp to the point of costume. The room clapped at the timing, not the truth. Tray high, Maya stepped onto the side riser to exchange two empties near a bank of microphones. A sound tech crouched at the stage's lip, tweaking levels. His cable snake spilled into the aisle. She lifted her foot, cleared the coil, and placed a flute in a trembling hand with a smile that steadied it. Close now, she heard Ethan's breath between lines, the small catch that microphones ignored unless you wanted them to listen. Partnership isn't just a signature, he said. It's a vow to be seen. The crowd approved the sentence structure. The stock chatter would too. Cass squeezed his fingers, picture perfect. The cameras moved in for the detail. Then a ceiling unit hiccuped, just a flicker, and the LED wash rolled a hair too cool. The diamond sang bright, a thin neon script across the facet edges. A guest near Maya whispered, "Lab pop?" Not quiet enough. His date shushed him, already second-guessing her own ears. Vivian's hand twitched toward the lighting board. The op warmed the wash by 2 degrees. The flare faded to bridal. The room forgot in the way expensive rooms prefer to forget. Maya eased back into the aisle, heartbeat steadying. The sound tech rose and nearly clipped her tray. She pivoted, kept the champagne level, and heard him mutter, "Sorry." "We're alive," she whispered back, and he grinned. Briefly human in a sea of performance. Ethan lifted the ring for the kiss of light shot. Cass tilted her chin, eyes soft, the picture docking in its frame. Somewhere flashbulbs manicured truth. Somewhere investors measured sincerity by the ounce. The string slid into a major key like good weather arriving early. Maya's phone pressed against her hip, warm with proof. The macro of the laser inscription sat in her pocket like a lined verdict. The ring on stage threw light like confetti. The one in her photographs told a straight, quiet story. 2 rings, 1 object, 2 realities.
Old lesson, optics could clap.
Evidence could wait. The MC invited toasts. Mr. Riker, silvered and certain, rose with a glass that cost more than Maya's monthly rent. "To endurance," he said. "To love that sets the tempo for markets." Laughter followed the neat blasphemy. Riker turned to Ethan and Cass. "May your future be as solid as steel and as bright as this room." As bright as this room. Maya glanced up into the truss, caught the LED's cold heart, and thought of pawnshop fluorescence, of her mother's whisper over a loop, of honesty living in unromantic light. Her tray felt heavier and lighter in the same breath. Downstage, Vivian cued the final beat, the kiss that completed the headline. Cass rose on her toes, soft contact, clean angle. The room applauded like it had practiced. Ethan smiled on the other side of the applause and looked, for half a second, straight past the cameras, out to the dark glass doors where the city waited to be told what to feel. Maya stepped off the riser, the ring's green ghost gliding beside her, and braced for whatever came next. Morning rinsed the city in a thin gold. All puddles turned to coins and scaffolds to harp strings. Soho woke like a cat, stretching, indifferent, beautifully bored. Delivery vans shouldered into loading zones while a pale sun leaned against loft windows and made dust look celestial. Maya rode shotgun in the catering sprinter, a tray of boxed pastries riding her knees, the map in her head recalibrating from rooftops to cobblestones. Tessa had volunteered her for the pastry drop, cross-promotion, with a bridal studio that dressed half the magazines and the other half's bridal party. It wasn't fate. It was route optimization that felt a lot like fate. She told herself she was only delivering butter and sugar. Her phone, heavy at her hip, remembered otherwise. Inside the studio, air smelled like steam, silk, and new beginnings priced by the inch. Mannequins floated in white, veils like weather, seamstresses moving with monk-like focus under skylights. A receptionist with a headset and a smile that worked on anyone nodded toward a back workroom. "Pastries to the atelier, please. You're a lifesaver." "Happy to feed the art," Maya said, easing past a rack of dresses that sighed when she breathed on them. A chalkboard listed today's fittings like a cast list.
Names she recognized from headlines, names that could buy weather.
On a central work table lay a small mountain of velvet boxes, ink blue, wine red, storm grey, each with its lid ajar like a yawn. Beside them, a jeweler's mat held sketches in clean graphite, rings with shoulders carved in miniature worlds. In one sketch, waves chased a sheaf of wheat around a platinum band, quiet, assured, the hail crest drawn not to impress but to remember. The diamond sketched above it sat calmer than any stone had a right to be. "Drop salvation here," said a voice sanded by late nights. A woman in round glasses and a black smock lifted a magnifier and blinked at the pastries. "You brought the good ones." "We're known for character-building carbs," Maya said, setting the box down. Up close, the woman's hands told their own story, nicks and polish stains, a tattoo of a straight line at the inside wrist. The jeweler's private joke. "Fiona Byrne," the woman said, offering a hand that did not mind work. "We keep heritage pieces on the premises before loan-outs. The coffee next door is heresy. You have better?" "We have drinkable," Maya said. "I can bribe a barista," Fiona laughed once. "You're hired." She turned back to the mat, lifted a loop, and frowned in concentration over a platinum ring resting in a nest of grey foam.
Hold that thought. Maya didn't mean to look.
She looked. The crest on this band wasn't crisp. It was correct, edges softened by time, grooves like streams that had learned to run around pebbles. The diamond above it didn't throw the needy green. It held light the way a lake held sky, steady and deep. Her heart knocked once, then steadied itself out of respect. "Beautiful," Maya said, and felt how small the word was. Fiona didn't glance up. She's temperamental, the old ones are.
They earned it. She breathed out through her nose, unscrewed a loop cap, and revealed a flare of patience. Hale family ring.
The real one. Lived in safes more than on fingers. "We're authenticating before a museum shoot." Maya kept her voice calm when her bones went electric. "For a wedding?" "For a book?" Fiona said. "Their PR asked for a heritage moment weeks ago. The family piece stays. They're not letting this one travel." She slid the ring back into its foam, a matador turning a bull with 2 elegant inches. The replica they commissioned was decent work.
Too decent. Edges too sharp.
Crest too proud. New tries too hard. There it was, tidy as a syllogism, the heirloom sunlight in foam, the performance neon on a hand, the laser line in Maya's photo, the soft tide of wear here. 2 versions of love, 1 camera ready, 1 honest enough to hold grief without cutting it. Fiona glanced at Maya's face and found the question waiting there.
"You're not press, server," Maya said.
Curious when fed, Fiona smiled at that.
"Curiosity is a trade."
"Careful how much you sell." She lifted another box, smaller, lined in soot-colored velvet, and set it beside the ring like a punctuation mark. They wanted a shot with a legacy box. Drives me mad. Boxes are props.
Metal is the memory. The box, though, Maya knew that shape, that nap, that bruise of the lid's corner.
Her mother had a twin in a dresser drawer, rescued from a thrift bin, empty and stubborn about it. She imagined this box closed around history, imagined it opening in a million polite rooms, imagined all the hands that had pretended not to tremble. The receptionist called from the doorway. "Fiona, Riker's courier is here for the veiling samples." 2 minutes, Fiona called back. Then to Maya, as if they'd been talking all morning. "Want to see something saintly?" She angled the loop at the diamond's girdle. Look, no inscription.
Old stones don't sign their own names.
They let the stories do it. Maya bent, eye to glass, and the world narrowed to facet and light. The diamond didn't flare green. It breathed winter. The crest's lines sank into the band like memory, into bone. "Saintly," Maya whispered. Fiona straightened, set everything with the tenderness of putting a child to sleep, then finally acknowledged the pastries as a moral victory. "You feed us."
"I feed your curiosity."
Fair trade. Maya thanked her with a smile that didn't wobble and stepped back into the hall with her empty pastry box and full head. In the glass of a framed fashion spread, she caught her reflection. Hair disciplined, eyes awake, a small, inconvenient joy lighting her mouth. The kind you felt when a puzzle piece slid home with the quiet click of inevitability. On the sidewalk, Soho shimmered like it believed in itself. Maya tucked the empty box under her arm and, for the first time since the ring had flashed the wrong color, let her shoulders drop. The truth didn't fix the world. It fixed the story inside her enough to keep going. Wind worried the hotel's upper terrace, combing the hedges and rattling the glass like an impatient guest. Midtown pulsed below, a river of headlights threading black water. The storm had rinsed the air clean. The cold arrived honest, knife-bright and clarifying. Maya stepped through the sliding door with a tray she didn't need, a prop that let her exist where she wasn't invited. The engagement party bled music through the glass, strings sugaring over speeches. The balcony held the spillover, smokers, secret calls, people who needed a sky. Ethan stood near the railing, coat open, tie loosened, the ring a small lighthouse at his side. He stared past his reflection to the city like it might answer if he looked hard enough. She set the tray on a side table and leaned into her training. 2 deep breaths, calm shoulders, a voice that could carry and still sound kind. "Mr. Hale," she said, not loud, not soft. 2 minutes? He turned. He recognized her. Relief didn't cross his face, but recognition did. "Maya?" "Out here the drinks are slow," she said, giving him a way to say yes. "I could use slow," he said. "What's wrong?" She met his eyes. "Your ring." A flick, then a wall. "What about it?" "It keeps telling a story it can't prove." She let the words breathe. "Under the LEDs, it throws a green seam. The crest is too sharp. And there's a laser line on the girdle." She waited, heartbeat steady as a metronome. "It's not the family piece?" He watched her like a man weighing costs on a scale he carried in his ribs. The wind lifted his lapel. Behind the glass, a toast landed. Applause blossomed and faded. "You know stones," he said. "I know truth when it pretends to be pretty." She kept her hands still. "And I saw the real ring this morning. It's resting on a jeweler's mat in Soho, being authenticated for a heritage moment that won't leave the building." His shoulders lowered by a fraction, a small permission to gravity. "Fiona?" he asked. Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. He knew the room she'd stood in. He knew the box lined in grey foam. The wind pressed colder. He looked at his hand, turned the ring the way he always did when words got heavy. The diamond bit the balcony light and almost behaved. Almost. That thin green whisper slid the edge again, a stage note in an honest night. He exhaled, and something in his posture finally told the truth. He was tired of carrying a lighthouse that didn't belong to his coast. "You can take this inside," he said quietly, "and you can burn me down." "I'm not here to burn anyone," she said. "I serve water and food. I prefer fires that keep people warm." "Then why come out here?" His voice stayed even. "The question was real. Because leverage just cornered me with an NDA," she said. "Because I don't sign cages. Because the people paying you want a headline to calm a deal, and I think that headline is going to hurt someone who can't afford it." She let it land, then softened. "Tell me the part that isn't PR. I'll put my tray down and listen." He laughed once, a short, unpolished sound that no microphone would love. He braced his forearms on the glass rail, city wind tugging at his sleeves. "We're carrying debt I inherited with the company," he said. "It's legal, it's ugly, The bank wants confidence or covenants snap tight. Riker wants stability. A public engagement is a signal. We picked a signal that photographs well. Picked, she repeated, the word tasting like metal. We contracted Cass for a limited term, he said, each syllable careful, like walking a beam in wind. She gets paid. She remains a good person. We keep 10,000 salaries out of a layoff deck the board has already drafted. We get runway to refinance. We remove a trigger from people who measure lives in spreadsheets. She didn't blink. And the family ring? The family ring stays with the museum shoot, he said, shame flickering and then being told to behave. We commissioned a replica to avoid risk and insurance insanity. PR wanted a perfect image. Perfect is cheaper than careful. It should have been quiet. It isn't, she said. No, he admitted. You saw the seam. The ring flashed again, its green script, writing a small lie against the night. The velvet box from this morning hovered in Maya's mind. Soft edges, real light, a piece that had learned the shape of hands. She let the two rings sit side by side inside her, one loud, one living. What do you want me to do? He asked, not combative, not pleading. The question surprised her by how human it was. Decide whether the story serves people or just buys time, she said. And if it only buys time, decide whether the cost is paid by folks who don't get balconies. She nodded toward the city where windows stacked like math. You asked for belief in there. Belief doesn't live on rented truth. He took that like a man who had been waiting for a clean sentence. If I blow this up tonight, he said, eyes on the river of taxis. People lose jobs. If you let it run, people lose something else, she said.
Trust. Dignity. The part of themselves that believes you when the numbers go red. Wind licked the glass. A drone buzzed past and drifted away. Behind them, strings slipped into a softer key like someone forgiven. He slid the ring off. It hesitated, then gave.
He weighed it in his palm as if weight could answer. Cass knows what this is, he said. She's not a victim. She's a professional, Maya said. So are you. Professionals tell the truth about the work. He nodded once, decision traveling from his jaw to his shoulders to his hands. Walk me through what you saw, he said. Quick, clean. Lab glow under LEDs, she said. Laser inscription at the girdle, crest too sharp. And the real piece is sitting in Soho breathing winter, not neon. He closed his fist around the band, then pocketed it instead of putting it back on. The absence left a pale ring of skin, a blank truth no camera would miss if it wandered outside. He looked younger without the performance. The empty circle on his finger framed the idea of a promise rather than the prop of one. The velvet box, in her memory, opened and closed 3 beats, an old heart still working. Thank you, he said, for saying it to my face. You're welcome, she said. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a villain. I think you're a man solving a problem with the wrong tool. He smiled, small, tired, true. Then I need the right one. He reached for the sliding door, hesitated. If this tanks the deal, they'll say I did it for a waitress with opinions. Let them, she said. The city has heard worse love stories. The door sighed open, music swelled. Vivian, at the edge of the crowd, clocked the missing ring in under a second. Calculations sparked in her eyes like struck flint. Ethan stepped toward the light, a man walking into a room that would require a new kind of spine. Maya lifted the empty tray, wind cooling her palms, and followed him inside, the night leaving a clean line where a ring had been. The ballroom's air tightened, sweet with lilies and tension, the kind that made smiles ache by the second hour. Floodlights softened to a flattering dusk, and the strings thinned to a thread. The room waited for its next caption. Beyond the glass, the city glittered like a dare, unapologetic and wide awake. Maya rejoined the left aisle with her tray at shoulder height, invisible by profession and seen by accident. Ethan moved through the crowd with a steadiness that read as premeditated to anyone who wasn't watching his hands. His left ring finger was pale where gold had been. Vivian clocked it and recalibrated mid-breath, headset tilting, eyes cutting toward the lighting board, the cameras, the exits, the chessboard she carried behind her ribs. Cass glided to the podium as if the floor were assisting, picture perfect and present. She read Ethan, then the room, then the space between, and shifted into a gear that protected everyone from panic. "Before we get to dessert," she said to the MC with an easy grin, Ethan wanted to share something personal about the ring. 1,000 heads tilted as if cued. Vivian smiled for the cameras and mouthed, "Don't you dare." Ethan lifted a hand, palm open, empty of performance. "The ring on my finger tonight was a replica," he said, voice amplified and unshaking. "It was meant as a stand-in for a family heirloom that doesn't travel. But a stand-in is not a promise." A stir ran outward like wind through wheat. Our teams chose the safer object for the room.
That was a mistake.
We are correcting it now. Maya felt the word replica land like a small hammer on the ballroom's crystal skin. The green seam that had threaded the diamond all night dissolved in memory, replaced by a different light, the winter blue steadiness she had seen through Fiona's loop. The velvet box from the studio opened in her head, the inside softer than any headline. "Fiona Byrne," Ethan called from the microphone, astonishing precisely 3 people and resetting everyone else's night, "is in the room." Heads pivoted. Fiona, round glasses, black smock, traded for a serviceable dress, stood from a table near the back with the expression of a woman who had anticipated at least 4 outcomes and was prepared to make jewelry behave in all of them. She carried a small, storm-grey velvet box on a tray the colour of good arguments. Vivian's headset hissed with damage control. "We don't have cameras cleared for that object," she whispered to a producer.
Tight shots on faces only, no hardware. Fiona reached the dais.
With a nod at Maya, 2 conspirators of different trades, acknowledging the other's competence, and placed the box on the acrylic podium where every eye pretended not to look directly at it. Ethan didn't touch it yet. He looked at the room. "My family has done a poor job separating symbol from story," he said. "I've contributed to that." He lifted the lid. The diamond in the velvet didn't leap. It settled. Light folded into it the way snow accepts morning, without argument. The crest along the shoulders looked like someone had touched it every decade for a century, and the metal had learned the shape of love.
No laser inscription.
No neon seam. Just a piece of weathered truth and the quiet gravity of wear. A murmur moved across the tables, curiosity trying not to look like hunger. Ethan didn't offer the ring to Cass. He didn't slide it onto a finger. He set the open box where the room could confirm the difference between bright and right. "This is the Hale heirloom," he said. "It stays with our archives except for restoration and documentation. We didn't bring it tonight because insurance, because logistics, because optics. Those were excuses. The truth is simple. If we ask people to believe in us, we owe them the real thing when we talk about vows. Replica buys time. Reality buys trust." Riker, 3 tables in, watched with a financier's interest and a grandfather's patience. His wife touched his cuff, a quiet vote for character. Vivian's jaw flexed once, then smoothed. She pivoted from prevention to containment, fingers flying over her phone as statements reworded themselves in the cloud. Cass stepped to the mic with a steadiness that made the cameras love her. "I like honest stage directions," she said, a small smile aimed at Ethan but meant for the audience. "Here's ours. We won't be taking questions about wedding dates tonight. We will be taking responsibility for the story we told." She nodded toward the box.
"And we're done using props." The room adjusted, then approved.
Not in a roar, those belong to victories without nuance, but in a ripple that sounded like relief, learning a new language. A pair of donors clinked glasses without being told. Someone at Media Row muttered, "Hell of a pivot," and started rewriting their lead A. Maya stepped forward with a tray of flutes for the first row, an excuse to be near the physics of truth. She set a glass by Fiona, who accepted it with a jeweler's tiny nod, then by Ethan, who looked as if sleep had moved 2 inches closer to his life. Cass took hers and exhaled in a way microphones couldn't monetize. As Maya withdrew, Vivian intercepted her with a slim smile that said both, "Not how I planned," and "Thank you for not exploding." "House lights to warm," Vivian told the board. "Strings, gimme human," music softened. Cameras narrowed to faces, as ordered. The velvet box remained politely peripheral, the way wealth prefers its conscience. Visible, uncaptioned, undeniable. Maya watched the heirloom absorb light without advertising it, and felt the motif complete a quiet circuit. The magazine in her mother's drawer, the wrong green flash in the rooftop heater, the laser line her phone had caught, the soft, worn crest breathing under ballroom lamps. The ring had stopped being proof and become a compass. Ethan closed the box and handed it back to Fiona in full view of the room. No sneak, no slight. "Keep us safe," he said into the mic, and the pronoun told more truth than the press kit ever would. He turned to the crowd. "Tomorrow morning, my team will publish our debt position and our plan to fix it without theatre. If that costs me, it costs me. If that steadies us, it steadies us. Either way, thank you for letting me change my mind in public." Mr. Riker stood with his glass. "I like a man who edits toward clarity," he said. And the laugh he earned was permission, not mockery. "We'll read the plan." Vivian's eyes closed for half a second, relief and risk-trading bracelets. She slipped beside Ethan at the edge of the dais. "We'll need a revised statement in 20 and a clean asset set by dawn," she said under the applause.
"Also, do not vanish. I wasn't planning to," he said, a glance flicking to Maya, like an instinct that had learned a name.
"I have people to thank." Maya eased back into the aisle as Fiona and the velvet box disappeared into the careful dark, the room brightening not from LEDs, but from the quiet courage of something real placed where a prop had been. Midnight pitched itself as noon beneath the media lights, a hard, humming daylight that erased shadows and patience. The mezzanine lobby became a small country of cameras, tripods like reeds, mics like spears, cables slick as river snakes. Outside, sirens stitched the avenue. Inside, the air smelled like hairspray, hot glass, and the ozone of breaking news. Maya stood at the edge of the scrum with a coffee urn, as her passport and a badge that said "Staff" in lowercase truth. A branded backdrop framed the podium. A row of chairs held executives who had practiced listening faces. Vivian directed the flow with a headset and a pen she wielded like a baton. Ethan waited behind a portable wall, thumbs still, jaw loose, the ring absent, the pale circle on his finger, a quiet rebellion. Cass stayed just off camera, a calm guardian with perfect posture and no script left to memorize. 30 seconds, a producer called.
Red tally lights bloomed like small suns.
Vivian stepped to Ethan with a final micro-brief. Lead with debt, then transparency, then jobs.
No improvisation, only humanity.
Questions 3, maybe 4. If they pounce on the engagement, we pivot to governance. Remember, your spine lives in your breath. He nodded once, not as a soldier, but as a person who had run out of angles and found a straight line. When he stepped into frame, the room inhaled. "Good evening," he said, voice mic-warmed but clear. "My name is Ethan Hale. I asked you here because trust isn't a rumor. It's a receipt." A murmur liked the line. He let it land, then continued. "Tonight we celebrated an engagement. We also showed a replica ring where a family heirloom should have been. That was my decision and my mistake. We corrected it." He looked directly into the main lens like he had decided to talk to one honest eye. "There's more." On a side table near Maya, a storm grey velvet box, Fiona's travelling cradle, rested with its lid closed, not as prop, but reminder. It anchored the space the way a compass does on a map you finally intend to follow. The absent ring on Ethan's hand made its own circle, the space where performance had been, now an open question. Our company carries debt that requires adult attention, Ethan said. We could have hidden behind euphemisms and photo ops. We almost did. Instead, we will publish our current position at 9 a.m. and the plan to restructure without layoffs.
That plan is hard.
It is not theatre. He thumbed a page but didn't read it. Here are the numbers. He gave them clean, specific, no syrup, like someone paying in exact bills.
Heads bent.
Pens scratched. The room changed shape. A reporter in a navy blazer raised a hand, voice sharp enough for headlines. Mr. Hale, did you hire an actress to pose as your fiancée to calm investors? Ethan didn't look at Vivian. He didn't flinch. We contracted a professional to stand beside me during a period of transition, he said. That person conducted herself with integrity. I did not. The admission landed with a weight that refused to wobble. He continued before the pack could scent blood. She has been released from any continuing obligation. The fault is mine, another reporter cut in.
Is the engagement real?
Cass stepped into frame on her own terms, a calm weather front. No, she said, microphone finding her like it had been waiting. It was work.
It's over. She glanced at Ethan, then at the room.
I support telling the truth. I prefer my roles to end when the scene does. The line was clean, not clever.
Cameras adored clean. Why confess now?
A third voice fired. What changed between the rooftop and this podium?
Ethan breathed once. Visible, human.
Someone who didn't owe me anything told me the difference between bright and right, he said. And I listened. Maya's hand tightened on the urn handle. Her stomach flashed hot, then settled. Vivian's head ticked the smallest degree toward her, a private acknowledgement written in managerial Morse. The velvet box sat unassuming, doing nothing flashy, the way real things survive. Maya pictured the heirloom in its nest, winter blue light, crest worn the way love wears you, and then pictured the empty circle on Ethan's hand. The motif had grown up, not a jewel but a choice. Questions multiplied. Will Riker stay in? Will creditors? What about governance reforms, independent oversight, clawbacks? Ethan answered without staging miracles or swerving into pity. He admitted misjudgments. He named the board vote scheduled for morning. He promised the plan, not the outcome. When pressed about consequences, he didn't outsource them. If I have to step aside to steady the company, he said, I will. You don't fix a roof by painting it. The press liked the cadence and tested the edges. What about trust already lost? How do employees believe you? He looked into the lens again. By seeing receipts. By seeing us choose the real thing when the replica is easier. He paused, then added, by watching us change in public. Vivian cut a finger at the floor manager. 2 more questions, then pointed to a woman from a local outlet. You, the floor manager called. Your grandfather built union housing, the reporter said.
Will you commit to no layoffs and no union busting? Yes, Ethan said.
He didn't add flourish. 2 letters, 1 hinge. Vivian caught the breath of the room like a maestro catching a forte and turned it. Last question. A young freelancer in a denim jacket shot their shot.
Who was the someone who told you bright isn't right?
Do they get a raise? Laughter loosened the edges. Ethan smiled, honest and tired. She has a name, he said. He didn't say it. He didn't need to. He let the moment be generous instead of exact. She has my thanks. Maya glanced at the box, then at the pale ring of skin on Ethan's hand. The circle wasn't empty anymore. It held a decision. In her pocket, her phone carried the macro photo of a laser inscription like a small sermon about evidence. The heirloom in its velvet cradle had done its last quiet job for the night, reminding people what didn't need to shout to be true. Vivian stepped forward, cleanly intercepting the swarm. We'll distribute materials digitally, she said. No hardware shots tonight?
Archival clearances are pending.
Questions about personal arrangements are closed. She nodded to the cameras.
Thank you. Red lights blink to black.
The room exhaled like a held breath returning to lungs. Ethan left the podium and moved through the tiny corridor of cables and congratulations. Riker intercepted him with a hand clasp that doubled as a stress test. "We'll read at dawn," he said. "Bring coffee and a spine." Ethan nodded. Cass squeezed Vivian's arm, and Vivian, miracle of miracles, let herself be squeezed. Maya poured coffee for the tech crew first, the real first responders, quiet satisfaction settling on her shoulders like a warm coat. When Ethan reached her, he didn't perform gratitude. He just accepted the paper cup and said, "Thanks," like a man who had relearned the word. "Cream and courage," she said, because humor made breathing easier. "Keep the courage," he answered, and left with the cream. As the lights cooled and the cameras packed, Maya glanced once more at the velvet box and at the unadorned circle on Ethan's hand, and understood that the night's loudest confession had been the quiet refusal to wear a lie. Morning arrived with sharp elbows. Screens in diners and lobbies chewed the press conference on loop. News tickers crawled like ants with headlines in their mouths. The sky was a plain sheet of paper with the sun pressing through impatient. Wind pushed yesterday's lilies into a corner, sweeter and more tired than they meant to be. Maya worked an early shift at the rooftop because chaos tipped well. Bankers in navy churned their coffee. Assistants in sneakers ordered salads like apologies. Her phone buzzed with polite explosions. Push alerts. A text from Tessa, "Crazy proud of you, please clock in." Another from a number she didn't know that turned out to be a journalist she politely ghosted. She wiped a spill, reset a table, and positioned her breathing in the place where choices sounded less like alarms. Vivian arrived without entourage, hair in a practical knot, headset traded for a phone bare of case or charm. She posted herself at the host stand as though it were a witness box, then asked for a word like an adult. "I owe you a version of thanks," she said, "and a version of warning." "I still don't sign cages," Maya said, gentle, unbudgeable. "Good," Vivian answered. Something rueful tugged her mouth. Because the board scheduled a morning vote, and the internet scheduled 1,000 unhelpful opinions. She slid over a slim card with a number written by hand. "If you get heat, anonymous threats, bad faith offers, send them to me."
"I'm paid to absorb shrapnel." Maya tucked the number into her apron. "And the deal?"
"Riker didn't run," Vivian said.
"He demanded receipts at dawn and got them." A dry breath passed for humor.
"He also demanded that I sleep eventually." Ethan entered through the side door with sleep still on his edges and the pale circle of skin stubborn on his left hand. The velvet box had gone back to Fiona. The replica had gone wherever replicas repented. The absence on his finger had become a presence, a small, honest moon marking decisions instead of decorations. He thanked the kitchen before he spoke to any camera. He posted a letter to employees that read like a human, and a spreadsheet had agreed to share custody. He sat with 2 line cooks whose cousin had been laid off last year somewhere else, and listened like that story mattered more than optics. When he met Maya's eyes across the room, he didn't make a moment. He made a nod. It counted. By noon, stock graphs did their nervous dance. By early afternoon, they stopped falling as fast. Riker's office released a statement with verbs that stayed sober. Cass's agent booked her into an audition that didn't require pretending to be in love with a corporation. Fiona sent a single text. "Heirloom home, unbothered, bless your spine." Maya's mother called between shifts at the clinic, voice frayed and warm. "I saw your rooftop on TV," Ruth said. "You sounded taller when you said nothing," Maya laughed.
"I'm wearing sensible shoes. You always were."
"Bring me a headline later that feels like we can breathe. I'll steal 2, Maya promised. She meant it. On break, she sat by the service stairs where the air ran cooler and drew her mother's old velvet box from her bag, the thrift store twin to Fiona's storm grey cradle. It was empty and stubborn, a relic without a jewel, a thing that held space like a discipline. She thumbed the bruise on its corner and felt how objects learn the shape of the hands that keep them. Ethan found her there because truth had made them visible to each other. He didn't look like a magazine cover. He looked like the kind of tired that tells the truth quickly. "The board didn't fire me," he said. "They handed me a clock and a checklist." Riker stayed. "We have runway if we keep behaving like adults." "Adults tell the truth before it leaks," she said. "I'm learning." He saw the small velvet box on her knee and sat on the stair below hers,
as if respecting altitude.
"Yours? Thrift store orphan," she said. "It likes being empty. Reminds me not to fill things with the wrong answers." He smiled, a small, unshowy thing. "I have a habit of filling rooms with answers I can afford, not the ones I can stand." He let the admission sit. "I owe you something I can stand." "You don't owe me anything," she said, and found she half meant it. "You owe your people quiet paychecks and a building that doesn't lie." "That too." He glanced past her to the steel door where the wind hummed like a machine softened by time. "Cass has a real audition. She's better at her work than I am at mine." "She's good at choosing exits," Maya said. "That's a skill. Vivian says you made her job harder and better." He huffed at the paradox.
"That tracks. I like her when she's honest," Maya said.
"I like most people when they are." A runner opened the door, apologized, and vanished. The stairwell returned to its private hush. Ethan's gaze fell to the pale circle on his finger, a sun marking where weather had changed.
"Do you want to hear my choice?" he asked. "Only if you already made it," she said.
"I don't audition for other people's lives." "I did," he said. "We're publishing everything ugly by quarter. Compensation tied to debt reduction, not just growth. No layoffs, union neutrality, and I'm stepping back if the plan needs it." He rubbed the blank circle with his thumb. "As for rings, I'm done wearing symbols I haven't earned." "Good," she said. He looked up. "Here's the part that's not strictly corporate." He reached into his coat and lifted a small envelope, not velvet, just paper, the modest material of real intent. "Dinner somewhere that isn't a stage."
"No contracts."
"No cameras. You can say no and I won't turn it into a lesson." Maya felt the familiar tug to deflect with humor, to keep power uncluttered. She set her mother's empty box in her lap like a compass. "I don't date headlines," she said, not unkind. "I'm trying not to be one," he said, equally not wounded. "The offer stands until dinner becomes breakfast and then expires." She considered the envelope, then the man beneath it on the stair, posture less ironed, voice less armored, a person learning to use smaller words for bigger truths. "There's a diner on 10th that makes honest eggs," she said, even at night. His relief moved through him without applause. "Honest eggs," he repeated. "I can try that." "Try showing up without an entourage," she said. "Try tipping the cook." "I will," he said, and she believed him. Back on the floor, the day tested their resolve with petty disasters. The POS system crashed. A bus tub shattered. A guest argued that champagne should be free if honesty was. Maya rode the mess like a surfer on a cooperative wave, laughed once with Gabe, and took a call from Tessa that sounded like management offering her weekday doubles, and maybe a training slot. Not a promotion, not a miracle. A receipt. By dusk, the company's letter posted. It admitted numbers and mistakes. It drew a map with landmarks you could Google. Riker signed his name beneath without borrowing courage from the font. The stock did not soar.
It didn't crater.
A quiet middle can be a triumph when you've been living at the edges. Vivian stopped by the service station, placed a paper cup of tea on the counter and said,
"Thank you for making me write better statements." Gabe toasted the air with a spatula and whispered to Maya, "You're terrifying in a good way." Maya snorted and covered a laugh with the back of her knuckle.
That night, at the little diner with chrome edges and cracked stools, the empty velvet box rode in Maya's bag like a kind chaperone. Ethan arrived in a sweater that didn't try too hard, with no ring and no speeches, and listened to a waitress describe the pie like it mattered. They ate honest eggs. He tipped the cook. Their conversation didn't audition for a subplot. It did not put anything in a frame. It acknowledged the ring they were not wearing and the box they were not filling. And somehow that felt like a beginning more durable than a ceremony. Before they parted, he rested 2 fingers on the table's edge, stopping short of taking her hand. "I don't know how to do this without making a headline," he said. "But I want to learn." "Start by going home alone," she said. "Then wake up and publish the plan you promised," he laughed, quiet and grateful. "Deal." Outside, the city breathed its endless, reckless breath. She walked uptown with the velvet box light in her bag and her shift shoes making their honest noise on the sidewalk. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Proud of your spine. Bring pie if you can." Maya smiled at that, because a request that simple was a religion she could practice. She chose the pie, kept the box empty, and let the night be enough. Night laid a soft dark over the boroughs, a quieter geometry after the day's hard angles.
Streetlights made coins of the crosswalk paint.
Steam breathed from manhole covers like the city was cooling its temper. A thin rain returned, not a storm, just a reminder that weather has a memory. Maya climbed the stairs to her walk-up, shoes damp, a paper box warm in her hands. Inside the apartment, the living room lamp threw honey onto thrifted books and a couch that sagged the way truthful things do. Her mother's clinic badge hung from a lamp finial, a small flag from long hours. The dog-eared magazine waited on the coffee table, the Hale crest glowing from a decade-old photograph, patient and not smug. "Don't tell me that's pie," Ruth called from the kitchen, voice tired and bright. "It's pie," Maya said, setting the box down. "You asked." I obeyed. Ruth came out in scrubs, hair braided the way pragmatism braids hair. She kissed Maya's cheek, then the pie box, then laughed at herself. "Your name walked across my TV this morning," she said. "It had a nice spine. Borrowed from you," Maya said. She slid her bag zipper and brought out the thrift store velvet box, setting it beside the magazine like a meeting between relatives.
Thought she should sit at the table? Ruth's eyebrows lifted.
"The stubborn empty one." "She reminds me to leave space," Maya said. "Hard skill." Her mother held the box the way nurses hold hands they're not done helping.
"People think jewelry is about shine," Ruth said softly.
"The good stuff is about weight. What can you carry without lying to your back?" Maya turned the magazine so the crest faced the lamp. In the old photo, the diamond held winter, calm, deep. She saw the wrong green seam again, a memory she wouldn't forget on purpose, and then saw the heirloom steadiness on Fiona's mat. The empty velvet box sat between images like a tether, an invitation instead of a demand. They ate pie with forks that didn't match. Ruth listened the way good clinicians and good mothers listen. No interruptions, just soft noises to keep a wound from closing badly. Maya told the story clean. The rooftop, the green flare, the laser inscription, the prep corridor, the photos, Vivian with the blue folder and the cash, the ballroom pivot, the velvet box on the podium, the press, the diner, the eggs that didn't lie. Ruth wiped a crumb from the lip of the plate. "You didn't sign the cage," she said. "It didn't fit," Maya said. "Good," Ruth said. "A lot of people spend years resizing cages and call it compromise." They sat with that. Traffic whispered on wet pavement. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor's radio found a song from another decade and decided to keep it. Ruth touched the velvet box again. "When you were little, I tried to keep nice things from breaking by never taking them out," she said. "Didn't work. Nice things break anyway. Better to use them until they mean something." "Like spines and pie plates," Maya said. "And like names," Ruth added, "a nurse's recalibration. Yours is getting heavier. Choose what it carries." Maya breathed that in, let it find a shelf. The box remained empty on purpose. The room felt full. A knock sounded. 2 gentle raps, not an announcement. Ruth rose halfway. Maya shook her head. "I've got it." Ethan stood in the hall wearing rain and a sweater that didn't need an apology. No entourage, no camera. One paper bag in his hand like he'd brought contrition in recyclable form. "You look like weather," Maya said. "I brought honest milk," he said, lifting the bag.
For coffee?
"And for your mother, if she drinks it?" "She prefers tea and stern looks," Maya said, and stepped aside. Ruth met him in the doorway with a 1,000-yard triage glance that said, "I have patched worse, and I have seen better, and I am still not impressed," which made Ethan smile like a human. He greeted her by name.
He said, "Thank you for raising someone executives listen to."
Ruth accepted the compliment with the economy of a nurse signing discharge papers. Then she patted his arm once. "If you're here to ask for anything that sounds like certainty," she said, "eat pie first." "Yes, ma'am," he said. It didn't sound performative. At the coffee table, the thrift store box and the magazine sat where they had been left. Small altar to decisions. Ethan registered both. He didn't reach for either. The pale circle on his finger had faded one shade darker, like skin remembering itself. He looked down, then up. "I owe you 2 receipts," he said to Maya. "One for the company. One for me?" "Company first," she said. He turned to Ruth, to the room, to the part of the night without microphones. "We posted the plan," he said. "We tied compensation to debt reduction. We put union neutrality in writing. We scheduled quarterly briefings with numbers and actual humans explaining them. If I fail a mark, I step back. If we pass them, I still step back from theatre." Ruth nodded once.
"That's a lot of verbs," she said.
"Keep them in the present tense." "I will," he said. "And the receipt for you?" Maya asked. He took a breath and didn't dramatize it. "I'm in therapy starting Thursday. I apologized to the staff I used as scenery. I called Cass's agent and told them any gossip to the contrary is a lie I will correct. I mailed my grandfather's letters to the archives he should have been resting in. And I am not wearing anything on this hand until I can carry it without borrowing." Maya considered the list the way a jeweler considered facets, checking for symmetry, for light that didn't brag. "Okay," she said, which in their shared language meant, "This is a beginning, not a prize." They drank coffee that tasted like a small agreement. Ethan ate pie like a man unlearning scarcity. Ruth told a story about a night shift in a blizzard, 2 nurses, a broken elevator, and a generator you had to bully into cooperation. It was a story about doing something together without writing a headline. Ethan laughed in the right places and did not audition for empathy. When Ruth rose to rinse plates, she paused at the velvet box, turned it once in her hand, and set it back exactly as it had been, empty and faithful. "You can stay or go," she told Ethan, rinsing, not just plates. "But don't ask my daughter to carry your uncertainty." "That's not a ring either." "I won't," he said. And it sounded like a promise he could lift. Rain ticked the window. The radiator hissed like an elderly cat. Time unfancy went about its work. Before he left, Ethan glanced at the magazine and the velvet box, and then at Maya's hands. "If I earn a ring," he said, "I'll bring a box that doesn't need to prove anything." She smiled, a small, unpublic smile. "Until then, bring groceries." "I can do that," he said. At the door, he didn't reach for her. He touched the frame with 2 fingers like gratitude could bless wood. "Thank you for not letting me get away with the bright thing," he said. "Go keep doing the right thing," she answered.
"It's uglier, but it sleeps." After the door closed, Ruth leaned against the jamb, arms crossed, the posture of a woman who had watched hope misbehave.
"You're not going to make this easy," she said. "I don't know how," Maya said. "Good," Ruth replied. "Ease is for lies and lazy knees." They cleaned the plates. They paid the rent of the day, small chores, bigger talk. Later, in her room, Maya set the velvet box on her dresser beside a jar of quarters and a photo of a beach they couldn't afford yet. She brushed her thumb along the box's bruise and felt the circuit close, the fake flare, the heirlooms winter, the empty space none of them rushed to fill. She turned out the light, let the rain narrate, and slept with the quiet weight of a life that had chosen a real thing over a shiny one.